Hey there, universe. Hope we're running for another running YouTube channel because I think I got a good one. I don't know. Well, welcome to Raving Run. This is episode number 1, and I just got done with. I've been doing like a little bit of a mini build before this next block. So I've been doing some fasted runs, and so I just got done with my last one. Did a 24-hour fast, and then I did a nice 30-minute run. This is the 4th one I've done, so I did like a 13-hour fast, a 17, a 21, and then a 24. Today was nice because it was nice and cloudy out. A little sunny at the end, so it definitely did get a little hot. My shoes were still a little squeaky, a little sweaty. So nice day. But like I said, this is the first episode, so let's start off with a little bit of an introduction. And I thought what would be kind of neat is that every time I'll a little block of the story, I'll eat something. I don't know. I thought something would be something that's neat. I've already had my protein and stuff for before my run. My run today actually, so it was a about 2 miles, I think 4.18, and I was about 7:11 pace. So today was actually a good bit better than the last couple days. So maybe you get used to the fast after a while. I don't know. But like I said, the clouds helped a good bit. So. Yeah, well, introduction. Like I said, my name's Mason Marshall, and want to do a little bit of a YouTube channel for the next, unforeseeable future because I think I got something special. So, my whole goal is I'm trying to break 16, and I have, here are all my PRs really quick, and we're gonna go through something in a second. But so I'm close. I got a 16, 15, and I've done some other good stuff within the past few years, but just been plagued with a few injuries and other things in life that just make it not as easy. But we want to go back all the way. So I'm from West Virginia. I'm born in Ranson, and my parents moved to the Keys when I was about a year old. So quite a big shift. Winters to no winters. I grew up on this island called Sugarloaf, and I grew up on a dirt road. Lived really close to my school. Across from my school was a basketball court at the church that I lived next to. That me and my friends pretty much just played king of the court or knockout all the time until high school. So yeah, middle school I played a lot of soccer, a little bit of baseball, a little bit of basketball. But really a lot of soccer. I love soccer. We had a really good team. Did pretty well in the States for non-club teams. Club teams, a little bit different story, but nowadays when you think about all these age restrictions and stuff, makes you question it a little bit. But we had one. I won once or maybe twice. I know we won once. I think maybe we got runners up the second time when I was 12. I missed 1 year because I went to Big Pine, which is the other island. It's like Big Pine, Sugarloaf, and Key West are the kind of big three, I guess you would say, within the end of the Keys, because then you have like Marathon and Key Largo, which are the other kind of bigger hubs. But yeah, so middle school was great. High school was something that I was looking forward to a lot because again, soccer was something I was looking forward to. I got on varsity my freshman year, so that was pretty cool. But I quickly began to not be fond of soccer. I didn't have the best coach. Yeah, he wasn't a big fan of me, and then I got into running, and then he was even less a fan of me. And my first year of cross country as a sophomore, I went from a 24 to an 18:28, so that was pretty sweet. And then I ran a 2:01.2 for an 800 split, a 50. That was my sophomore year. So my sophomore year, I did really well in those two events. I didn't get better at those two, unfortunately, but I did get better in my 400. Ended up running about a 51 split for that. I think I ran a 51 open too. Pretty sure 51.8 or 51.3. But so I was pretty well rounded in high school, and I did really well in school. Went to college pretty much with the idea of being an engineer, which didn't turn out exactly the same way, but I honestly probably did harder stuff, so interesting. But and then in high school I also played a lot of video games, so that was probably the thing that made my life the trickiest was playing a lot of World of Warcraft, because I was just always wanting to play games, always wanted to stay up till 2-3 in the morning, and then trying to wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning to go for a morning run. I mean, it was just but again, I was able to do it, and again, the reason my junior and senior year didn't go well is because we lost our coach, and he was a great distance coach. Our school had a decent sprinting coach, so I think that's kind of why I just naturally went from trying to be a 5K 800 person to just focusing on the 400. And actually, my best event was the long jump. I ended up jumping. I forget if it was 2110 or 2010, so I'll have to go look that up and put it on the board. But I think it was probably 2010. I don't know. Actually, no, it makes me wonder. But I'd only done it for like 3 or 4 weeks, and I was about 2 or 3 inches away from going to states. So, I mean, just goes to show you, sometimes you can work hard at things you love and not get that far, and sometimes you're really good at things, and you're just like, well, that was easy. I don't know. Jumping's pretty easy though. You don't get tired. That was the only reason I tried it. But yeah, so that was me in high school. I did really well in sports, but I really wasn't trying to be, a state champion. I just wanted to go to states, which I got to do a few times in both track and cross country. We got fourth in the 4x4 and fifth in the 4x8. The 4x8 was my sophomore year, and the 4x4 was my senior year. And then we did decent in cross country. I think we got like 14th place, and then I think my senior year, we got 24th place. I don't even, that was bad. But we went to states, so I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll talk about college next. So the next, when we get to the next food group, for this food group, we just had kombucha, so we kept it very light, very, very, very light. All right, so. Ooh, what do we eat next? Who knows? And we'll go kombucha, we'll go fruits, we'll go vegetables, then we're gonna go protein and carbs probably at the same time. Once you eat the first few, then after that's really not too important. But it's always good to go, with liquids, and then you want to go with fruits, typically, just things that are, more liquidy, not really a solid to an extent, and then vegetables just because those digest a little bit quicker, and then after that your body's pretty much fine. And I didn't really even do a full fast, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's always good to warm things up. As I get older, the more I realize that's what's key, is warming up. So all right, hope you like the first little bit, and I'll see you, I don't know, maybe like an hour. All right, actually much quicker than an hour, like 15 minutes. I forgot, the next one was in orange, so that one doesn't take too much longer. So yeah, we're in college right now. So in college, really the only thing I was excited about to do in college was play World of Warcraft. I hate to say it. I went to UCF, University of Central Florida, and they didn't have a track team, so I didn't even break 19 minutes my senior year in cross country, so I didn't even bother trying to go out for their cross country team. I probably should have in hindsight, because I would have just gotten better. But then again, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I loved college. I just got to play a lot of video games. I wanted to be an engineer, but I ended up getting a degree in math education. So I got a math minor and became a math teacher. Again, kind of wish I would have stayed with the engineering, but again, I designed a lot of things later on in life that some people would say are very engineeric. So I know. I just wanted to do something hard in college, and so I thought math was hard. So, I'm glad I did that. It's all about challenging yourself in life. That's the biggest thing. Not doing things that are easy. Not doing things that, I don't know. Like, I liked math, but I liked that it was hard. I wasn't that great at it too. So, well, we'll get to that. But I wasn't a math stud. I got a 710 or a 730 on my math SAT. So. Nothing wild, but obviously had a decent foundation. But yeah, so then in college I still ran. I think I started to do some spinning classes in college. Those were always interesting, just sweating a lot. I started to do a little bit of yoga. Just started to kind of try some new stuff out, but just being athletic, just staying in shape. I think that was, I forget when CrossFit started, but I started to do things like squats and 400s, those types of just interval type workouts with a little bit of strength training in them. So they're always fun. And back in college, was doing those and then going down and doing like nickel drinks, or it's just so, you're just working out to just go drink some stuff and then just, go to sleep. I don't know. But yeah, so I loved college. I had so much fun with it. I stressed the college part more than I should have, but that's just because I played more video games than I should have. Yeah, you just gotta know when to not play the video game. But I was really good at WoW. I was in like a top world guild, and I'm glad I quit, but I'm glad I played it. So it was one of those double-edged swords. yeah, college was great. Again, math was kind of tricky at some points, but I really started to see the bigger picture in it. I wouldn't even say it then actually. I started to like it, but I was just kind of doing it to get a job. I was excited to be a teacher. I helped some kids do some math during some summer programs and enjoyed it, so I was excited. My mom was a middle school math teacher, even though she never really encouraged me to do it. And I think my parents even um, discouraged my sister from being a teacher who was older than me. Um, and they said it probably wouldn't be the best idea. So, you know, um, because being a teacher is can be tricky, but I loved it because I love math, and I started to really like math the more I got into it, and just turned it into a puzzle, and just not being the teacher that I remember always having. I have a question. Well, can't you read your notes? Well, come on, man. I have a question. Can't you just answer it? Well, you read your notes. And like, I get the concept of it's better to teach yourself than to have someone tell you. But I think with a lot of students, I think just asking for help is all I need for a student to show me that, yeah, if you ask for help, like, I'll work with you. And I'm not just going to tell you the answer, but obviously I'm not going to just tell you to read your book. Um, and I think I did a really good job with that. I've done a really good job with that as a teacher. I'm definitely not perfect, but I like to be creative. I like to make my own lessons and stuff like that. So I like being a teacher. My first year I actually got fired, but then my principal at that school actually gave me a really good recommendation when the assistant principal from the other school called to talk about me because I applied there. So that was interesting. So, that's education for you. And yeah. But yeah, I guess a little bit before that, in college, before I graduated, I met this girl, met a love of my life, met a love, yeah, not the yeah, great girl, we ended up living together for a little bit, and that was about 3 years into it, and things were great, but she had told me in the beginning that she wanted to move away, and to go to Europe, and I was always okay with that because in my back of my head I was like, well, I'll just go with you, if we're still together, and at one point I guess I just didn't have my stuff together because it was my first year teaching, and I was just making excuses. I probably could have done more to do what I needed to do. And I guess I just had expected that maybe she could wait one more year, but she didn't want to do that. And I just didn't think that things were gonna work out if it was a long distance. And yeah, so that was kind of my fault. So, but yeah, you live and you learn. And I'm pretty sure she's married now, so can't really complain. And then about 3 months later, that's when things really started to take a turn in my life. So we're gonna pause right there, get to eat an orange, and then we'll come back with the next food group. Ooh, wonder what's next. So we're gonna do vegetables next. That's a little bit trickier. Fruits is gonna be an orange or banana, really. Maybe blueberries. Thinking about other fruits. Maybe a mango. Yeah, I'm thinking about easy fruits. But yeah, so vegetables next. All right. All right, we're on to episode 3 within episode 1, or clip 3 in episode 1. And for the third food choice, we have beets. The lovely purple vegetable. Oh man, love beets. I'm gonna leave it in that just so they stay nice and steamy. Oh yeah, so let's see. We're after college. We're getting a job, and we're saying life's about to get really interesting. Well, it got really interesting because, well, so I lost my job, but then I got another job and broke up with the girlfriend. We were living together, so that was a bummer. So now I'm by myself. Now the school year is ending. Now I don't have a job next year. So I applied for another job. I ended up getting it when I was down in Key West hanging out with my buddy Carlos playing some basketball. I got the call, so that was a pretty cool call. So I start working at this high school, the really sweet high school, Edgewater High School, in Orlando, Florida. And I worked there for about a month, and then I went to a music festival, and on my way home from this music festival, a semi-truck decided to cause an accident on the interstate, and I was the only other car involved in it, unfortunately. I can kind of give you a scenario. I do have this huge book that the lawyer made. I don't really want to show it just because I don't know. I just don't want to. There's like an LLC in it and stuff like that I don't want to blah blah blah. But it was it was a bummer. I woke up 4 days later. What had happened was the semi truck jackknifed on I-75. I think it was around Ocala. I was coming back from around Atlanta, going to Orlando, and it jackknifed on the road, and it pretty much blocked the right lane, which I was in. So I drove into its, or left lane, sorry, and I drove into its gas can, which caused it to explode, which caused a lot of fire, which caused me to inhale it, which caused my lungs to get infected. So they had to put me into a coma. I can go on with a lot about this, but the big thing was I got a little bit of brain damage. My lungs were infected, and then my tibia plateau was broken. My face got really messed up, and but the tibia plateau was the bummer because I had to wear a leg cast for 4 months, and since it was a break at a 45-degree angle, I was no weight bearing for 4 months, which, the difference between a little weight bearing and no weight bearing is, well, pretty much the difference between like a lot of atrophy and not much atrophy. Because my two legs, by the time that 4 months was over, it's still small, and I haven't done really, I guess, the proper, I did my PT for probably 6 months afterwards, and everything went great. Probably should have done more, just little stuff. Just probably more little stuff, more like body weight exercises and morning exercise. I don't know. My PT was going well. It went well. My PT was, half the time she'd tell me to do something, she'd be like, I didn't think you were going to be able to do that well the first time through, and so obviously, they're not used to a 25-year-old who's in shape, so obviously it's a little different. But what was really cool is I told my PT that when I won my first race, I was going to come back and bring her my medal. So that came to fruition because I don't even know when, but I ran the Supermom 5K in Orlando, and I ran an 18:10 and I won it. So I got to go give her that bracelet or that medal. So that was pretty sweet. I guess really the big thing that was a bummer was, I guess I jumped ahead a little bit, but right before my crash, I started running a lot more. So when I was in high school, again, I didn't really try running. I mean, I cared about running, but I was much more into other things. But when I was practicing and when I was running, I was trying my hardest, but obviously I could have put in a lot more effort in a lot of other things, sleep being the main one. In college, I just stuff to stay in shape, so nothing crazy. I don't think I broke 20 minutes in a 5K throughout all of college. And then my second year of teaching, I taught at my first school too. I coached at my first school too, and I had some really good runners. One of them, I think he's broken 2:30 in the marathon. I think he's around 2:35, 2:30, 2:35, something like that. He's a 14-minute 5K runner. I'm pretty sure he's broken 15. So I've had some, I think they said they would think I was a great coach. I obviously have learned so much since then. I couldn't believe if I told, thinking about what I thought was a good, training block back then compared to now. But I've learned a lot, so, but yeah, so, I coached there, and then at my new school, Edgewater, I started, they already had a great coach. I don't want to get too into it because honestly, if you Google Edgewater cross country coach, you'll see some interesting stuff. They had a great coach. He had run at Brown, I think 14-minute 5K runner. I was just running with the group, and I was keeping up with the kids. And honestly, I was kind of surprised because they were, all sub 17. Most of them were sub 17-minute 5K runners, and made me think that, I was a 16:30 or something, and I couldn't believe it. I'd only been training hard for like 3 months. Like, it was wild. And so that's, and I didn't do any 5Ks because, high schoolers do them over the weekend. So I was waiting until the end of the school year, into the cross country season to do my 5K. But, the accident happened, and, woulda, shoulda, coulda kind of thing. And so, so, it's just the whole fact that, like, I was building, I didn't really believe how fast I got in that 2-month period. And so then when I got back into running, slow and steady, again, got to an 18, but then I started to get a lot of these little injuries. I got a really bad Achilles injury. I got really bad plantar fasciitis. and it just never seemed to go away. I went to a doctor for it. The Achilles, the plantar fasciitis, I went to a doctor for it, and they said pretty much you might not ever run ever again kind of situation. I'm like, what? So then I just wore, no shoes for about a year, and things started to get better. Doing all these stupid exercises, just the things that you see that help the plantar fasciitis. Really, but for me, it was a lot of walking. Started doing a lot of slow jogging, just trying to get my foot stronger. But then I did this one run, and I didn't realize that I was running up this hill, because again, I'm in Florida, so there aren't really hills, but I was in this one area that had this like 10-foot hill that was pretty much like a staircase, and when I would run it, I wasn't on my toes. I was letting my heel sag down. I was very stupid, and I did this 24-mile run that I went through that hill probably 30 or 40 times, and the next morning, like, my Achilles tendon had like a bump on it. Like, it was noticeable. I felt it when I was doing yoga. I didn't notice it when I woke up, but I felt it during yoga. I was like, what the heck is going on? And that probably lasted for about a year. I remember just doing a lot of plucking with my tendon, just sitting down and plucking it after doing like a sauna, and that was miserable. So it was about 2 years that I really did not do much running. But yeah, then after that I ended up moving up to Asheville. Some stuff happened. I'll get into that later, but it was really some family stuff, and I was helping my brother out, and so I had bought him a house in Asheville and ended up moving up there with him, because I made some mistakes, but I was trying to help my brother out, and then again I had gone back to college, and I was just at a point where I was like, I could move or I could stay here, but moving really wouldn't be that big of a deal, and I don't mind, and if it could help my family out, I just felt like it was a good idea at the moment. But yeah, so now we're up in Asheville, and we're going to pause it there again. So we're almost there. We got one more little incident. Actually, it's pretty bad. All right, well, one more. All right, we're on the last one. I left my food in the oven, though, just because I wanted to keep it warm. Doing like a little filet mignon burger. Oh, man, I know. I don't do, I usually just eat chicken. I'm not a big cow person, beef. But, after a fast, I saw in the refrigerator, or the... in the grocery store. I was like, you know what? I haven't done it in like 2 years, so little Asiago bagel, filet mignon, and then I'll do some Munster cheese. Keep it kind of simple. That's the thing I like after fast. You really don't want to, you don't want to overdo it, and you honestly want to, I would say keep it a little less than like 5 things. Fruit, vegetable, a little meal. That's one thing with food. It's like, your body's digesting stuff, so to digest one thing is a lot easier than to digest like 20 different things, because eventually it's all kind of getting sorted in a way. At least in my opinion, I don't know, but maybe just... All right, so, we're up here in Asheville, and, I've been to Asheville a few times, because I had bought the house a while before in the past, and my brother had moved into it, and we had come to visit, the family every now and then. I've done some runs around here, so not too bad. But I, didn't realize how much I would dislike it when I moved up here, just because I'm so used to running from my house. And my house, I live on a really big hill. I can't even run down it, and like that's how steep it is. So I usually have to, if I were to run from my house, I have to walk to like places to then be able to run from there, but even then it's not even smart because there's no sidewalks. So I usually go to parks, or usually I just go to parks or the Greenway. But since I live in Asheville, about a year and a half ago with Helene, that was pretty horrible. I lived in Key West my whole life. I've been through like 3 pretty big hurricanes, 2 pretty big, and then a few other not so bad. But Helene was a monster, like unbelievable. A tree fell in my backyard that was probably about this big, 3 feet across, maybe 4 feet across, and sounded like a thunderbolt. And I was like so confused what had happened. And then when I went outside and I saw that, probably about 70, 80 foot tall tree fell down, only affected my chain link fence, so it wasn't too bad. But it just sucked because all the parks were closed, all the greenways were closed, so all I could do was run. Actually, so since I moved up here, things went great. I got a little too ahead of myself. So I took a lot. I moved up here, started getting into running, and things were going pretty well. I'd done like a 10-mile run right before I moved up here. It was in Florida, and I'm not too good at running the heat, so I ran like a 65 or something. I was just happy I broke 70. That was my big thing. So then moving up here, things were going good. Started to get into some really good patterns, some routines. Found some nice little places to go run at. Fletcher Park was one that I liked. Really, that was the one I drove to, and then there was one in Waynesville. That might have been Fletcher Park. See, it's been I don't run those too much anymore. But things were going well. There's Carrier Park, and I was running around this kind of go-kart track that they had. And I remember one of my last workouts I remember before things again changed a good bit was I ran a 5K, about 18-15, and it didn't feel bad. Like I felt like, man, like that's what I'm doing already. Like this is amazing. And I needed to go down to Florida to do some teacher stuff because to be able to teach in Nashville, I had forgotten to do some stuff for my certification, so my certification ran out, so I had to take some tests to activate it again, reactivate it. And on my drive down from Asheville to Orlando, my stomach made kind of like a very abrupt feeling, and I mean it just felt like a weird kind of like little I don't know. And didn't really think much of it. I thought I ate something that was just a little weird, so it wasn't too much. I had my first case of food poisoning, I think, for about a month before. It wasn't a bad one. I had ate some eggs that were out a little bit too long, so I think that's what kind of got my mind a little like, oh man, I must have ate something. I get down to my parents about 9 hours later. I can just remember driving. Luckily, the roads right before my parents' house, they live in Harmony, is just like no one's on it, so I'm not a big speeder, but I was sweating bullets, and that's when I started to realize like something's going really weird. So I get to my parents' house, and I'm asking them to run me a bath, and do the bath, come out. I feel like, man, what's going on? And my parents say, well, maybe it's your appendix. And I'm like, well, the pain's like really far down here, and it shows the appendix is up here, or vice versa. I forget which one it was, but it just, but then again, like I'm not a doctor, so like, yeah, I mean, we went to the hospital. This is back in COVID, and I don't know how long we were there for. I got my blood drawn. Really wish they would have tested that, because if they would have saw that it was infected, then they could have just called me, or, I don't know. I wish I would have done so many things in hindsight. Because about 5 hours later, we're still in the waiting room. I don't even know if it was 5 hours, but at least 3. It's dark. My mom had already left because she had to work the next day. I'm there with my dad, and I was feeling better. I'm like, well, maybe it's okay to go home, Dad. My dad's not telling me to go home. I'm like, well, Dad, I feel fine. And I guess the way the appendix works is like as it ruptures, when stuff leaks out, that's when the pain is really intense, but then it kind of it doesn't really keep going because there's not as much pressure in it, so it subsides. So felt good. The next day I went for a run, 20 minutes, but it felt fine. I wasn't feeling any pain. I felt like I had like 100 fever, so it just wasn't optimal. And I felt like that for like the next 5 to 6 days, and I was like, man, Mom, I just don't feel that great. I don't feel bad, but I don't feel great. I don't know. And she's like, well, and at this point, I don't have insurance. I'm not working. I don't really care too much. I mean, I have a little bit of money, but I'm like, again, I don't think it's a big deal. So we go to urgent care, and they put a stethoscope to my stomach, and they told me that I need to go to the emergency room, like right now. Like they can't hear anything moving in my stomach. And so we go to the emergency room. We talked to the doctors. I mean, this one, it went in much quicker. Luckily, it was during the day, so that probably makes it easier. I don't know. Do some tests. I think I get a CAT scan or some kind of scan. I feel like for some reason I'm thinking a CAT scan through the brain, but I feel like I got one for my stomach. I don't think it was an MRI. Maybe it was an MRI. But I don't think it was because those would take longer. I don't know. But so I got one thing done, and I'm sitting in my little private room waiting for to hear the news, and I get a call from the surgeon, and he's like, "Hey, is this Mason?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "My name's Dr. Halili. I just found out that you have a ruptured appendix, and you have three abscesses in your body right now. That if one of them pop, you could go septic, and that could cause your heart to fail, and you could die." And I'm coming over there right now. We're gonna do the surgery in about 30 minutes. So just kind of giving you a heads up. I don't think he said I was gonna die, but that the kind of was very blunt with everything, and I was just kind of like blown away by it. And so I just remember kind of taking that all in, and he had talked about how I might lose a good bit of my large intestine and maybe my stomach, depending on how far the infection had spread, and blah blah blah. So I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, how can this be possible? 24 hours ago, I felt like I couldn't believe how good my life was. And I'm just in the hospital. And that's how it was with the car accident. Like, I was at a point where I was finally over getting like much, like, almost over getting over my girlfriend and, getting ready to work at my new school and just ready for life again. And then I got in my car accident, and then the same thing. I'm just like got through all these things that I just feel like are just so annoying. Things that I don't, if I could choose these things and they'd be difficult, that'd be one thing. Going to school and choosing to go through the hard thing to get a degree, I'll take that. But like when things happen to you and it's just not your fault or it's natural, and it's like, and I went to the doctors the first time, so that's what makes it so tough. And I try not to be hard on myself because really, it's just like I just feel like I don't know. That's where it's just like it's like I could easily be hard on myself and say like, why were you so stupid? And I kind of was, I guess, but at the same time, I thought I was being kind of rational. But so again, I had this. Luckily, my surgeon was a. I'm like, I wish I couldn't have picked a better human being. I feel like or gotten chosen to have a better human being, because he just came in, and I just remember talking to him right before I got put under, and he was just like, "Oh man, Mason, we're gonna snip, snip, snip. It's gonna be good to go." And luckily it was. I woke up probably like 3, 4 hours later. Um, that's when things started to just get annoying, and it was just really rough. They had to put tubes inside my body because they weren't able to get all the infection out. So I had 5 openings, and 3 were left open. That I had 3 tubes coming out that had balls on them that would the infection would get sucked out of the tubes and go into the balls. And so I would just put the balls in my pockets. So I had 5 balls in my pants, essentially. I don't know if that's okay for YouTube. I don't know. But so yeah, that was just really annoying. And what was even more unfortunate is that 2 days later, I wasn't able to eat this whole time. 2 days later, they say you need to get another surgery done. So I had to get put inside of a medical van and get sent to Orlando's downtown uh, health department, hospital. Um, and they needed to do another, they needed to put another pipe in through my backside. And so they had to put me in an MRI machine to be able to do that. And that was horrible. And so maybe I only had 2 pipes in me at first, and then I got the third one put in. I think that's actually what happened. Um, and then I get sent back to, I'm in I'm in Harmony. I forget actually, maybe St. Cloud, I guess. But I get sent back, and I'm in the hospital for 2 weeks. It's miserable. It was like when I think about being in the hospital after my car accident, that was amazing. I mean, I just was sitting there. It wasn't that bad. I knew it was going to get better. When I was in the hospital for this time, the doctor never said I was okay. They were always worried about me getting reinfected or something worse happening later on, and I was just really trying to keep it together. I mean, it was just super, super rough. And this is back during COVID, so I can only see my mom 1 hour a day or my dad 1 hour a day, whichever one wanted to come visit. Luckily, I'm very social, so I just got along with a lot of the nurses there, so it wasn't as bad. But I never slept. I had to pee all the time because I was put on a catheter. I think that's what it's called, where you have water put into your body. I forget. There's all these fancy terms. I don't know. I was having water put into my body, and I just had to pee a lot, and it just was miserable. It was just miserable. It was just miserable. But I mean, it's just like what it is. And so I had to stay in Orlando for about 3 months. because I wasn't, even when I got out of the hospital, they still weren't sure if I was okay. I had to go back every month to get checked to make sure the infection wasn't building up again. And I still had the balls in my stomach still. So those didn't get taken out until I went back up to Asheville. But eventually everything worked out. So, can't complain. I was looking forward to having a little bit of spending money after selling my house in Orlando, but, that didn't really come to fruition. But anything's clean bill of health is worth anything, and that is the honest truth. So now I'm up here in Asheville. It's winter. I've never experienced a winter. I can't do a push up. I can't carry a gallon of milk. I still was on like restrictions for the next 2 weeks or a month. So I'm just going for walks and trying to not be depressed, and that was pretty hard. And yeah, but eventually I started to do yoga, so that was the best thing because this Asheville has one of the best yoga places probably in the country, Hot Asheville Yoga, and that became kind of like my sanctuary. And I just think that all the conversations I had in that room with all those amazing teachers are why I was able to build the confidence back up, because it really wasn't the fact that it was, talking is so important, especially when you're going through hard times. Because unless you're able to express the way you feel verbally to someone else, you're never going to understand it really yourself. And so talking to other people, I think, is just such a good way for you to really see how much you're even making sense of what you're going through. I don't know. It's so tricky. But I just can't imagine where I would be without those people. Like, 'cause I love yoga. It's amazing. It's so good for you, and I'll do it until I die. I don't do it as much when I run, but it is the best. Yoga and swimming. It's amazing. So, eventually I'm able to start running again, and, I'm locked in. Like, this is all I'm going to do now. I was planning on going back to become a teacher, but I'm like, no, I don't care anymore. This is my life. I want to run as fast as I can, and I'm not going to let anything stop me ever again. And that's kind of where we're at right now. I put in a lot of time, I put in a lot of effort, and I've enjoyed the whole process, and I think that what makes it so great, and I just want to keep doing it. And I just want to show people that the hard work and the suffering is worth it no matter what, as long as you try your best. Because if you try your best, that thing inside of you will know. And that's the thing that I think, that's what counts, is what you do. And if you are doing the best at whatever thing you're trying to do, like, that's what makes us feel good. And when you're not doing your best, and I think that's just that little tug of war within our soul. I don't know. But so eventually, things end up going so great. I ran a 16, 15, 5K. I ran a 2:09 800. I broke my high school 800 time. I broke my high school mile time of 4:42. I broke my high school 5K time of 16:15. I'm just like, and I'm feeling good. And I just got a job at the school, and I'm excited, and, training's going well. And come December, I think this is 2003, I go for a run at about 5 o'clock, and it's dark already, and it was raining, and I do about 10 miles with a lot of hills, and I was feeling something in my back at the start of the run, but I didn't think much of it. And by the end of the run, I guess I probably just numbed it through adrenaline. But, by the time I get home, I'm walking downstairs, and I'm like, I hurt myself because I was limping, and I was just like, no. And I think it was like 5 weeks or 6 weeks of no running. And then ever since then, it stinks because I started playing World of Warcraft again. I had one more good block in, but then I started playing World of Warcraft again. And as much as I think I can run and play World of Warcraft at the same time, I just can't, because they both take energy from me. And I just have to be focused on the running. Because if I even play WoW a little bit, I play too much, and it's just too much. And this new style of WoW, which is called WoW Hardcore or Hardcore WoW, which makes it so that you lose your character forever if you die. I mean, honestly, I have no regrets. I did exactly what I wanted to do in that game, which was kill the last boss, Kel'Thuzad. I mean, probably less than 1,000 people in the world have done that. Like, I mean, I don't know. And it took me a while to quit because I just kept wanting to keep playing, but I was realizing like that you can't do this, and when I kind of put things in priority, things were getting better. I got back, yeah, so things were getting better. But then, like I said, I did all that. I got hurt, started to try to get back into shape, but then got into World of Warcraft. So then I just was trying to, burning a candle at both ends kind of thing. And I was doing yoga as well, and I'm teaching. So I was just too much. It was just too much, and I was loving life. I think that's what made it so hard. Is I was always engaged. There was never a time where I wasn't doing something that I didn't want to do. But I feel like to be the best runner, you have to rest more than you realize, and I just wasn't doing as much as I needed to. And when I was doing that, so then the hurricane came, and things. I had about 2 years where I just really wasn't progressing. Just 17-minute 5Ks, maybe broke 17 twice. So nothing terrible. I mean, I ran a couple decent miles. I ran a 2:04 800 at one point within that, so that's you would say is pretty good. But then Helene came, and it got really rough around here because you couldn't run where you usually would run, and all I could do was run around a parking lot. And I think because of running around this same parking lot over and over again, I developed an injury in my knee. That was a really weird injury because I could sprint, I could run really fast, but I couldn't run slow. It was so bizarre. And I was just like the smallest part of my knee, just right here. It was almost going down to my shin bone. I don't know. It was weird. I felt it in the first 2 minutes of a run one day. And then I felt it in the last 2 minutes of a run that same day. I was like, that's interesting. And then the next day, it was pretty much the same thing in the beginning of the run, but at the end of the run, it was much worse. I was like, And then the next day, I couldn't run. So then I had to take 6 months off, no running, and I start, in the summer. That's when I started to feel better. The injury happened in December, and I start running in June. And, I'm just trying to get consistency, dealing with heat and humidity, and just focusing on form. Got into doing a lot of strides, lot of strides, a lot of sprints, hill sprints, and things worked out well. My first 5K back, I ran a 17:15 in August, so I was like, I was surprised, And then my next one, then things started to get a little rough because my next block I was stupid, and I usually take much more time off, but it was a shorter summer session, so I only took 3 days off. And then I did a 4 mile run, and then I did a 5 mile run with a hill, which I should have just done a few 4 mile runs and just not pushed it. But that 5 mile run in the hill kind of stressed my calf out a little bit. So the next day I did like a 20-minute run, and then I did a 20-minute run, and then I think I took a day off. I don't know. It wasn't bad, but it was just enough where I wasn't, the beginning of your training should be fun. It should be light. You should be fresh. And I just tried to push it too much. I was just too eager, and it was a mistake. And luckily, it wasn't bad because my first 5K that I did within that block was a 16:45 or 54, so that was good. It was a little hot that day, so it was in the 60s. I want to say could have been a little cooler, but it wasn't bad. And then my next one I did, unfortunately, we were getting a lot of cold fronts that were coming in, and or maybe one day it was rain. I think that's what it was. So I had to push it back. And then when I did mine, it was 24 degrees out. So that made it tough. But I ran another 1650 something, 1656. So, I know it's there. Like it's there. And I just need to have one good block, one good race, one good effort. And I know I can break 16. I'm so close. And I ended up not even running a 5K for this last block. Because honestly, I don't know. It wasn't that I was nervous. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. But I can just tell right now, doing these 30-minute runs, doing this fasting, and just thinking about the way things are going now, like I'm super excited because I want to start, talking about it. And I think that extra bit of responsibility will make me just think about it in the right way. I'm not like worried about this. If I write 1615 on my gravestone, I'll be pretty happy. But I just Again, I want that extra little bit. Because honestly, I just really wanted to break 18. That's all I wanted to do. And then I wanted to break 17. And then, again, you want to keep going. And if I can do this, again, once you realize you can do anything, that's what makes being a human fun, is it just takes time. Whether it's math, running, yoga, art, construction, you just got to put time into it. You just got to start it, and you just got to see how it works. And then once you see how it works, it just starts to flow, and then that's when things become fun. And even when it becomes challenging, it even becomes more fun, because then you got to think about it, and that's what we love to do. Because if you didn't have to think, then what would be the point? Oh man, so I'm really excited. I'll get a video of the burger for the first bite, but I'm just excited for this because I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And again, I know I'm not something special, but I just think I'm such a well-rounded person that a lot of people are going to get so much from this. This is the Rave and Run podcast. It's like a yin and a yang, rave and run. You have the thing in life that's serious, and then you have the thing in life that makes you feel crazy. But then sometimes, like, they switch, and like, I'm really serious about going to a rave, or like running makes me feel crazy. One of my big things in life is like, raving makes me a better runner, and running makes me a better raver. Because the last thing you want to do when it's 2 o'clock in the night is stop dancing. So the last thing you want to do when you're about to finish a race is stop dancing. Because like, when you stop, that's when the magic stops. And when you keep going, when you go with it, it's just, you just gotta stop thinking. That's what makes it good. You just go with it. You stop thinking, you trust the situation, and you go with it. And again, sometimes the situation might not be what you want it to be, but if you trust it and you try your best, all roads lead to Rome. I don't know if that means it's a good thing, but all roads lead to good things. You just have to, you just can't slack. You don't want to cheat. You just have to go about it the right way. When I think about my car accident, I just couldn't imagine how I would feel if I hadn't gone through that, because it just made me really appreciate things. And I feel like I already appreciated things, and then it just made me think, can I appreciate things even more? And then I had my appendicitis, and I'm like, how does this just keep going? Can you just infinitely appreciate things? Like, huh. We'll leave it on that. Can you infinitely appreciate things? Can you always appreciate more and more and more and more? Is there a limit? All right. Well, good day, good introduction, and it'll be fun to see where this goes, because I said all roads lead to good things. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and